What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the FiveMarks Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, the lovely and adorable Mr. Martin115, joined by my lovely dance partner. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, I am Carmo. Welcome back for another week.
And this week we are joined by, we can call you a WWE legend now, a wrestling legend now. I think it's been that long. He is a former tag team champion, former cruiserweight champion. I nearly said king of the cruiserweights. Cruiserweight champion. He is the man with the plan, the man that is coming to OTT for SmackDown next month. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Kendrick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Honest to God, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, happy to.
So we start off the podcast with the same question to absolutely everybody because it's so interesting. What is the first wrestling memory that comes to your head that just hooked you on wrestling?
I was going over to a friend's house to play a board game. They were watching the main event of WrestleMania 6 on VHS. I saw the Ultimate Warrior run to the ring. I didn't watch wrestling at the time. I would have been, 8, 9, maybe 10 years old. And I saw that and I said, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I wanted to be the Ultimate Warrior. I remember very specifically. Yeah.
Oh, that's probably like the I'd say the oldest one we have. No,
that's okay.
So like growing up with Warrior have been like the person to look up to.
What are you asking? Like, is that who I looked up to?
Yeah, so like would have been Warrior would have been like the person that you kind of grew up and been like, wow, I really want to be like this person.
Well, he's the one that made me go, I want to do this. I wanted to be like him. Then I started to get VHS tapes. And quickly my favorite became Coco Beware. I fell in love with Coco Beware. I still argue he's absolutely he's amazing. He's in the Hall of Fame, and both fans and wrestlers alike kind of mock that. They think it's out of place. Because he didn't win any major championships, wasn't in any major programs for the WWF. But as far as fire, as a babyface, as far as believability, energy, I think he's fantastic. Yeah, so that's I saw him and he was my favorite.
I'll throw it out yourself now, Carmel.
I want to ask about you getting into wrestling, because I believe you actually started at the Shawn Michaels Wrestling School.
Yeah, so I went to a different wrestling school before that. It was NWA Southwest. Trainers there were Kit Carson and Chris Germany. Really, good trainers. They're kind to me. They worked us hard. But I wanted to make it to WWE, so I wanted to find Jose Lothario, and it just so happens that Shawn Michaels opened up a school, and that's exactly who I wanted to be. So yeah, that was it. I went to a different school first, then Shawn's.
I'm gonna ask a random ass question now in hopes that you might remember. Do you remember taking your first bump and what that was kind of like the first time you hit the mat?
No, I know it would have been at the NWA Southwest school. What I do remember is how much the ropes hurt. I couldn't believe how bad the ropes hurt. People when they start, they're all purple on their ribs and stuff. It really beats you up. The bumps at first you would learn from just laying down with your knees up and your feet flat on the mat and just kind of doing like a sit up and slapping back down. What you really get is the front of your neck. You feel muscles you never had before, and the front of your neck really hurts because it's saving you from that whiplash. So I do remember those pains.
Ooh. So back to you, Carl.
That's been tough, all right. I want to talk a little bit about when you originally signed with WWE. I think it was in developmental, and you wrestled in Memphis Championship Wrestling. There you actually worked quite closely with the American Dragon, Brian Danielson. What was it like working with Brian Danielson around that time?
Well, it was great. So we went to Shawn's school together, got signed together to developmental. He was the guy who I would train the most with at the school. I would try to put in as many hours as I could. He would try to put in as many hours as he could. And a lot of times it was just Rudy Boy, Brian, and myself. So I mean, I loved wrestling him in Texas. I loved wrestling him in Memphis. I would love wrestling him again at any time. Uh, I like his attitude and his approach and his work ethic.
Love it. I want to go and come a bit later on again into your time with WWE when you kind of became under the name of Spanky. That rap battle that you had with John Cena on SmackDown. What are your memories of that rap battle?
What I remember most was Shane McMahon wrote the rap for us. Cena and I had this rap that we came up with. I would kind of have some jokes, but Cena was very clever with that stuff. He is very good at that wordplay. But then Shane came and listened, and it was just a bunch of um, like inside references and jokes that only John and I would really get. Um, and I think ultimately Shane was right. The crowd reacted favorably. Um, and That's what I remember, though, was uh, Shane rewriting everything.
The question I have
To
about
the
that,
better.
sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, that was it. That was it.
The question I have about that, and I only noticed this the other day when I watched it. Did you have gold teeth during that rap battle?
Yeah. So I asked if I could get an outfit, and I wanted a clock, a big clock. I wanted some sort of Run DMC style Kangol hat and a gold cap tooth if they could get it, and they got it all. It was really it was fun. I can't believe that they did all that.
Are there any questions?
So I have actually got one, and this kind of goes a bit further for questions you're going to ask in Carmel because it came into my head there. I saw a clip today. It was John Morrison and Chris Van Vliet's podcast talking about the the ladder spot that absolutely destroyed Joey Mercury's nose, and obviously you were in that match as well. Now the funny thing with Morrison was he went out one side of the ring and didn't notice that he got taken away for busted nose. He was like, "Where the fuck is he?" Do you remember that spot at all? Where you were, and just the realization of going, "Oh shit."
So yes, I remember. I remember the spot. I remember uh, not wanting any part of it. And so I remember it went according to plan, not a busted face, but my fear initially was that that type of thing would be too out of control, and somebody's face might get busted. And I didn't know that Joey got hurt. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't see the spot. There's so much commotion. That match was supposed to be a regular tag match against Regal and Dave Taylor that night. And we found out that morning that this is a ladder match. So it was chaos the whole day. Um, and so when I found out, and I didn't know what it was, is Paul and I are leaving, belts in hand as we're going back. As soon as the padding around the ring starts to become the ramp and we start to take our first steps up the ramp, I look back and there's a pool of blood that would fill my entire car. I mean, not up to the top. I mean, it was a 6 foot pool of thick red blood on the floor, and I had no idea what happened until I got back through the curtain.
So you had no idea. One, you had no idea about the ladder match, and then to make things worse, it wasn't until the end of the match you went, "Oh, what happened here?"
What happened here? Yes. Match is not exactly what I was expecting it to be as it's going on, but okay, we're gonna get through this. And then ultimately, yeah, there's a giant pool of blood. I call my wife and she's panicking. Oh my God, is Joey okay? And I don't know. I hadn't seen it, and that's the type of I don't want to see it. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it. Yeah,
Have you seen that spot to this day, though?
I can picture it in my head, so I must have seen it once. I must
Yeah.
have seen it once, unless I'm making it up in my head. But it's the type of thing that I would avoid. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
you, Carol.
Around that time as well, you were teaming with Paul London, one of my favorite tag teams of that time, one of my favorite tag teams of all time, really. But how was that run with Paul? And then I suppose finally winning the tag team titles with Paul?
No, it was awesome. It was a way it was hard to get on TV, and you need to be on TV to be traveling on the road. So we might as well just be in developmental. And uh, with us being so young, without any equity, we needed something. Um, and in the tag team division, it's typically you're the champion or the challenger, and then maybe one other team in the mix. But there isn't 8 tag teams on a roster. And so it was real exciting for us to get a program, to be on TV, to have uh, even if it wasn't us cutting the promos, Joey and Johnny cutting promos with us interrupting. It was really exciting and a lot of fun. Paul is real. I'll say like courageous but like in the sense that like fearless is what he is. He would do really innovative, fearless moves. I was able to keep a fast pace. I'm not fearless like him, but I think we blended well, and I really enjoyed our time together.
Can I ask you as well, just because obviously I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000 times, but like once upon a time you guys were one of the longest reigning tag team champions of the modern era. For something like that to be given to you by the WWE, like what was that like for you?
Oh, it felt like it was never planned, and it felt like we just came. We hung on to those things so long by luck. The same way we got them, the same way we wound up being a team is through certain things not working out, people getting injured, people having to get suspended, stuff like that, that we even wound up there in the first place. And because of all that, this whirlwind of luck and good work, that we're able to maintain it for so long.
What about you, Carmel?
I want to kind of move to 2008 now, where you actually transitioned into the Brian Kendrick. And you started, I suppose, Ezekiel was your bodyguard, Ezekiel Jackson. Was that the right time for that change, and what kind of brought around that change?
Yeah, so I mean, we wound up being split via the draft. Paul and I, we wound up getting switched over to Raw at one point, not doing much of anything anymore. At least on TV, we'd still do some house shows and stuff, and then they split us, and I was gonna wind up being doing nothing, and so I went and asked for something. They said go down and find a heater. I came back with a heater, and it was the right time. I just wasn't uh I wasn't mature enough to carry that long enough. You know what I mean? I became too uh, much of a maniac during that time.
There's one thing I want to ask you from a certain match in 2008, because people still to this day acknowledge you as a former WWE champion because of that Scrabble match. Is that something at all you go, yeah, I had it for a few minutes at a time?
I'm a former current champion.
Former current champion.
That's it. That's it. It's a funny thing to say. It means nothing. But that's what I am. I'm a former current champion, which is just a goofy little thing. But no, it the record books are held by the WWE. You know what I mean? So it's whether they determine whatever they determine, that's what it is. But for me, I could say that with a smirk. Yeah.
There's one little section. There's former champions. There's former current champions.
That's it. There's only a few of us. Yeah.
Can I actually ask you about that scrap match? Because like there was only ever three, which was for the ECW title, the World title, the W title. It was a unique concept, like completely. Yeah. What was it like? One kind of planning the match out and actually doing the match itself.
Yeah, it was great. So like when I'm working with the boss hunter, so that's legitimizes things as far as it being a big match. And then I'm in there with Jeff Hardy, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. These are all guys I get along really well with, and all guys who I want to work with. And so it was exciting. We were they were a few years older than me, but we were all considerably younger than we are now. And And so, man, it was cool. It was cool to be in there with those guys. It was cool to be in there with friends like that too. Um, so if MVP and I were to have a beer and look back, we can talk about that. It's nice.
Here's to the current former champs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll throw it back to you, Caramel.
I want to talk about your return to TNA shortly after that. And more specific, I want to talk about the Destination X, where you beat Abyss for the X Division title. What was
Mm.
it like winning the X Division title? And I suppose at the time was a prestigious title in TNA.
Well, it was awesome. I mean, I like working, fast-paced matches with guys like Red or whoever it might be, but I think I thrive at being the little man in a big man little man fight. That's what I like to do the best. I don't mind getting thrown around. I'm not a tough guy, but it's I can get thrown around, uh, and it was great. It's something that Abyss and I, when we see each other, inevitably it'll get brought up. We both look back on it fondly, although I think I saw it once the week after it happened. I haven't watched it since, but I remember it fondly.
I have to ask only because we interviewed Leo Rush recently, and he had a couple of the titles that he won. Do you still have a couple of the tag titles and like the X Division title? Do you have replicas of those, or do you have the actual titles of those?
Nothing.
No.
I've got nothing, nothing, nothing. Yeah, yeah. It's a shame. It'd be nice, but I don't know what I would do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, if you were to get the WWE title one, would you do it?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, yeah,
just to
maybe so.
continue, just to continue that thing going.
Yeah, maybe so.
Look, we're getting up to the Cruiserweight Classic, so I'm going to pass it over to Martin to continue with the Cruiserweight Classic.
So obviously you got brought back for the Cruiserweight Classic in 2016. First off, like being part of the Cruiserweight Classic, because honest to God, to this day, in my opinion, it's still the best tournament that ever happened. What was that like for you?
It was great. It was I was out there struggling. Wrestling to chicken one day feather the next kind of business. It's tough. And so I was on the indies, and Regal, who's a mentor of mine, he would, tell me on occasion, hey, look, we're looking to start a cruiserweight division. We're looking to start a cruiserweight division. And so when it happened, it was a remarkable opportunity. Yeah, it really saved us. Yeah.
And then obviously from the Cruiserweight Classic, we got the Cruiserweight Division, which became 205 Live. Again, it's kind of like looking at it like for the very first episode of 205 Live, you were the champion, the Cruiserweight champion, going into it, obviously after beating TJP. I think it was a Hell in a Cell. I said this with Leo, but like there'll always be one, and for you, that one is you were the first cruiserweight champion on a cruiserweight show. What was that like for you?
I guess I hadn't looked at it that way. Um, what I remember was we were in a bizarre market, not the right market for it. You wouldn't think. It's like Greenville, South Carolina. It's after SmackDown with only the promises of a dark match between two superstars that you came to see, but you probably already saw earlier in the show. So these people are going to have to wait 45 minutes to see a bunch of guys they don't know, and they were sour on us immediately. Um, but by the end of the match, and Rich Swann grabs the microphone, the crowd reacted to him. They were so happy for the guy and his story of winning it for his deceased mom, and they reacted. So that felt really special that they went from apathetic to cheering the babyface's victory. That was special to me.
And then, like 205 Live went on for such a long period of time. At one point, was considered the best show for stories, for matches, everything. Especially 2019, where like people were watching pay-per-views, the kickoff specifically, because like cruiserweight matches on the kickoff, I have to see that. It's gonna be crazy. To be a part of that locker room, part of like we're now instead of all eyes on Raw, SmackDown, NXT was all eyes on 205 Live. Was there a bit more pressure in the back to we got to put on a hell of a show?
So I never felt like anybody came to see us. I never sensed that feeling from any of the other 205 guys either. But what we always wanted to have the best match we possibly could. We felt that we were limited in a sense, but understandably so, meaning you guys can't go and do a corkscrew something to the floor and then we've got the rest of the show to worry about. But we wanted to go. We wanted to hit each other hard. We wanted to do the most dangerous moves. We wanted to be the best technical wrestlers. We these were all guys who wrestled on the indies for no money. These are guys who are passionate about it, and so they didn't lose their passion, and they thrived off of a crowd that didn't like them chanting, "This is awesome," by the end of that match. And that locker room was able to do it. They were really, really good.
You had an absolute like talk about the Cedric Alexanders, Mustafa Ali's, Akira Tozawa. Like, I don't know. For me, like especially the biggest example of it, it was the Australian show, Super Showdown, when Murphy and Cedric had their match. Blew every
Mm,
other match right out of the water. Like it just
that
seemed
right.
that you guys were just hungry for it.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Every one of the guys wanted to be the best wrestler in the world. Um, but there wasn't a bad attitude towards the heavyweights. It wasn't us against them, and they didn't feel like that with us. And a lot of the heavyweights and guys, they play video games, and the cruiserweights love video games. We blended real well. Um, but most of the locker room didn't watch us wrestle. Once their match was done, they'd be gone, and so we'd have a very empty locker room. So we didn't have much support in as far as that goes. We had their sympathy. They knew that, from the main roster, they knew that it was going to be rough for us. Um, but yeah, we took pride in having the best matches we could.
I have to ask you, out of all of you, who was the best at video games?
It ain't me. Out of the cruiserweights, I'm going to say it's TJ Perkins, but I can't say with authority.
I want to. This is where I really want to kind of pick your brain a bit because around, I think it was around 2020 going into 2021, you became a producer for NXT. Obviously, then at that point you're working under Triple H. What was that like being a producer? Like instead of being in the ring putting this match together, you're now putting a match together for two different people and making an entire story out of it.
It's uh it's all over the place. It can be really good. It can be really frustrating. It can be really rewarding. Uh, for the most part, I really liked it. I liked the challenge of it. I liked that it was something different. What I didn't like is it wasn't by my choice. I really wanted to wrestle, and when there became the mass cuts, with the lockdowns, I got the option of losing my job altogether, being a producer. So I took the producer job. So I never, my heart never wanted it.
Mm.
I would work, I would do my best at it because I would take pride if I'm mopping the floor, I suppose, if it was my job, but um, it wasn't by my choice.
Last question before we get into OTT. Is there anything from the producer time that you look back on and go, I am so proud of that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, a lot of the matches. There's one where the women, it was a three-way, and one of the women got really hurt, and another woman in there didn't speak good English. And we had to figure out what the heck we're going to do because this all needs to be called on the fly, but they didn't know what to do. And there's Bloom and I. And luckily, Bloom just says to me, he goes, tell Steph, grab the heat. And then from there, we're off and rolling. So that one was good because that was like a real emergency call. Um, there's other ones like Walter versus Ilya too, but I didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? I didn't do nothing. I just say like,
let them do their own thing.
that's it. That's it. You know what I mean? This is the time they want. This is the finish they want, as far as who goes over. And then if anything, I'll ask these guys to go over it. Would you like a replay? You know what I mean? Would you like, can I figure out the camera angles? But for guys like that, like I can't tell them what to do. They do what they do so perfectly.
100%. Carmel, is there anything you want to throw in?
I was actually just going to ask quickly. You have your own pro wrestling school, don't you?
Um, I don't have a facility of my own anymore. I rent out time, go and train kids on off days. Yeah.
How do you find that? How do you find that now, kind of getting to that side of things where you're now training people to become pro wrestlers?
Boy, I've been doing it for over 10 years, even while working for WWE, having a training school off and on. I love it. I love it. It helps me get better as a wrestler. I study old film to teach these kids, and so it keeps me evolving. Um, Years ago, I was frustrated. In my 30s, I find it really frustrating. How do you not, why are you not taking this more seriously? Now that I'm in my 40s, I'd be like, well, this being in the WWE isn't for everybody. Maybe wrestling on the indies is exactly where they should be and what they, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I'm much more patient now as a trainer.
So,
yeah.
Now we have to bring up that next month you are coming over to Ireland to compete for OTT. OTT, there's no match announcement yet, but there's a massive roster of people. We have people, cruiserweights like the Kingslayer J, Cian Noonans. There's a person you're very familiar with, who's the current OTT world champion, Trent Seven. Is there any kind of style of person you're looking to go up against, or anything like that, or is it just send anyone my way?
I mean, honestly, I'm happy to just see what comes my way, as long as they're motivated. That's all I want. We're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So as long as they're motivated, I don't care if they're super experienced, although that's great because then I can really challenge myself. But it's still a challenge if they're a rookie. As long as they want to have the best match they possibly can, that's what I want.
I can promise you that you will get that here. We will preach for our guys so much. It's some of the best wrestling and best wrestlers are here in this country, and it's going to be exciting to see you come in for OTT. What's your kind of excitement levels to come into Ireland?
So I mean, I'm from the United States. My mom was, my grandparents was, but we go back a few generations. They're all Irish. I'm super excited. I haven't been in years. I don't know how many days I'm gonna be there. I still haven't got my travel. It's being sorted. I hope that I get a few days. I spent a night with some Irish guys out in the UK at a show, and even if the bar was closing, we had 40 minutes together. It was a blast. So I can't wait to see what an all-nighter is going to be like out there.
I have to ask, was that at FFW with Steve Savage?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve runs our local promotion. Hard knocks.
It's a good man.
Oh, he's honest to God, he looks like the biggest, toughest guys, but he's the biggest sweetheart. The biggest sweetheart. But we have a few fan questions I'm going to run through quickly.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off with this one because I love this question. If you were to build your own cruiserweight division or cruiserweight show, who are 5 people, and it could be WWE or anywhere, you'd build that on in 2024?
Okay, I'm going Rich Swann and Tozawa right away. Um, and then from there, I'm gonna go Osprey, Danielson, Devitt.
Ooh. I love
Yeah,
the Osprey thrown in.
is he? He's a big boy, but if we're going 225, he might be under. Is he?
He's probably just about, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just about.
I might have to find someone else. Golly. Um,
It's a hard one.
I don't know. I'm sorry,
You're
boys.
great.
I'm gonna throw myself there. I want to wrestle those guys. I'm gonna be the fifth. I'm gonna be one of those promoters.
5 underrated Brian Kendrick matches.
Oh wow. Okay. Alex Shelley and I from 0-1. Um, Casey James and Idol Stevens versus Paul and I from one of those random pay-per-views. I'll go with that. Abyss and I wrestling against each other. Brock Lesnar and myself, Umaga and myself.
Those are two big. That's a two big guys just to throw it at you.
Yeah.
Looking back on your career, are there any times you wish you said no and now wish you said yes?
Oh, times where I said no to something.
And then times you said yes and you regret saying yes.
There's times I've regretted saying yes. To a backstage promo that buried Ezekiel Jackson and myself right after we got our push. I regret not putting my foot down and rolling the dice. As far as saying no and should have said yes, I can't think of any, but I'm sure there's thousands.
After 20 years in the business, what one thing do you really want to do before retirement?
I always wanted to wrestle on WrestleMania. You know, that's I'm 44 now, so I mean this is crazy talk, but yeah, that would have been it. Outside of that, yeah, just run a successful wrestling school franchise.
Ooh, that's not a bad thing to aim for. That's not a bad thing to aim for.
Thank you.
Now this one was already kind of answered, but if you've had any other answer to it, who did you idolize growing up?
Oh, okay. So yeah, it would have been, I love Coco Beware, and then Shawn Michaels, I thought he was the absolute best as I started to become a teenager, everything about him. And then it was Rey Mysterio. The first time I saw him, I truly believed I could do it. And so as far as like a hero to me in pro wrestling, it's Rey Mysterio Jr.
Oh, that's not bad. It's not often you actually hear Ray get the praise like that.
It's crazy, right? And I've had this argument, not argument, but discussion with MVP, and he says no, he does get it. You're just pulling the wrong people. You ask Latin Americans, you ask like, hey, he's in their Mount Rushmore. So, okay, yeah, he's probably right. If you take the general consensus of the United States, though, of wrestling fans, I don't know if he's up there where he deserves to be.
I agree. I'd have to argue with MVP on that one because even like here, like we have the odd person here, but you don't hear it many times. But speaking of Mount Rushmore, of two more, someone asked, "What would be your Mount Rushmore of 205 Live?"
Oh boy. Okay, so the best ones on there, and Tozawa and Swan. Those are guys I can just feel. And then I guess from there you go Pac and Cedric Alexander. Those are like two. Yeah, but I mean it's so hard. It's hard to say because
the roster was
put Gulak here. Yeah, they really great wrestlers. Yeah.
Now this one is very much. It's not much of a question, but when I told our editor Will that we were getting you on, he absolutely. I've never heard the guy mark out. He marked the F out. So he's asked me to say this to you. He goes, "Well, Brian, my name is Will, and I'm the editor for the FiveMarks. I just want to say I'm such a big fan of yours. I still have all your figures at home from when you were Paul London to when you were tagging with Big Zeke. Just want to say thanks for the entertainment you've given me and my brother to be the next you and Paul London on bouncy houses at birthday parties.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you, Will. I really appreciate that.
When I said to him, "Oh, it's Brian Kendrick next week," he was, "What? No." But listen, if people want to see, Carmel's just disappeared to me. If you want to see Mr. Brian Kendrick in action, he is coming to OTT in Dublin in May. I think it's May 14th. I could be wrong. Next month in Dublin for Spankdown. Who knows who you can be going up against? I cannot wait to see who it is. This is the kind of time we kind of give you. If you have anything to promote, anything to plug, this is your moment.
I got nothing to plug. I got nothing to promote. But I hope to see anybody who's listening, who's in the Dublin area out there. Come up, say hi, and shake hands. We'll take a picture. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you again for coming on. Honest to God, we appreciate it so much. Can't wait to see you in Dublin. It's gonna be absolute. It's gonna be an absolute war. It's gonna be so much fun to see you, and whoever you take on, good luck. And I hope to God that you just love being in the locker room with the boys.
I know I will.
But to sign off, I don't know where Carmel's gone spot. I'm going to take his spot here now. Anyways, so thank you all for listening. Follow us, FiveMarks Podcast, FiveMarks Pod, on our social medias. You can follow Mr. Brian Kendrick here. I think it's at Mr. Brian Kendrick.
I believe so. Yeah.
On Twitter and Instagram. Follow him away. As we end this episode, thank you again for Brian coming on. And look who's back! Look who missed the end of the interview.
Yeah. When we do, I know our 100 episode just came out, we reveal things like this. When we do our 200 episode, I'll explain what happened. Yeah.
Got it.
A great interview though with Brian.
Very
what
good
an
interview.
absolute gentleman.
And honest to God, I can't wait to see who gets him. And now there's pressure on you. Whoever it is, Jay, Kean, Trent, Sam, who else? LJ.
Anyone on that
there's pressure
roster.
on you now. We've praised and will always praise the fuck out of this island's wrestling and the roster that we have. Now you gotta step up and show Brian that the FiveMarks weren't lying.
OTT Spankdown Sunday, May 12th. KFRC.
I thought it was the 4th. I knew I was wrong saying 14. 14 seemed wrong to me.
12th KFRC. But look, that was our interview with Brian Kendrick. Might as well wrap up this episode now. Martin, give us our socials.
You can follow us, as you see up in the top right-hand corner, FiveMarks Pod on TikTok and on X now, guys, it's called. FiveMarks Podcast everywhere else as well. Please check out Weekly Controversies on YouTube, the FiveMarks Weekly Controversies on Spotify. Give the boys some love. But yeah, other than that, brilliant interview with the Brian Kendrick.
Brian Kendrick.
I can't wait to see what's next.
Former current WWE champion.
What a way to start off the next 100 episodes.
The 101st episode. Unbelievable. But ladies and gentlemen, we've been the FiveMarks Podcast, and for another week, we are officially ding, done.